Chapter 7. Somebody to Say. The young pair that lay close faded, the past drifting off. An adult Ruby stood over the spot and sighed, slightly missing their adventures outside the Great Valley. She left and strolled among the tunnels, finding her parents who were nibbling on some greens they brought inside. When they saw her, Mother patted a spot for Ruby to join them. With a smile, she went and sat, picked up a leaf, and ate it. "So, have a nice day, dear?" Rodney asked. "Yes, it was nice. My friends threw me a giving ceremony." "That's wonderful." Mother gave a soft sigh, glancing from her mate to Ruby. "That hip fella came by asking about you, again." "Hopefully you turned him away." "We did. But, Ruby, don't you think it's time you try to find someone, anyone at this point?" Rodney added cautiously. "I mean, Hip's not a bad guy. Quite nice looking, at least." "Oh, he's that for sure. And rude, full of himself. Not sweet or kind the way Ruby froze, swallowing a few times. "He's not for me, okay?" Trudy always got the feeling Ruby harbored feelings for the little Sharptooth boy, yet kept it to herself, wanting her daughter to come to the conclusion on her own. "We only want you to be happy. Speaking of him, we bumped into him before we came here." Eyes wide, Ruby looked to Trudy. "What? And you never told me?" "We felt it best to wait, and he told us not to mention it." Rodney spoke, rubbing his neck, along with other things. In the past, Rodney and Trudy traveled alone, after the twins went on their own, unaware they were close to the Great Valley. By a creek they paused, dunking their heads under to find a clam and devour it. When a shadow fell over them, they gasped, knowing it belonged to a Sharptooth. Their minds were put at ease when they recognized the blue skin, seeing it was none other than Chomper, though he was quite taller than last they saw him. "Chomper, is it really you?" Trudy asked, squinting to get a better look. "It sure is." Chomper walked to them, glad to see a set of familiar faces. "Where's Ruby? Is she with you?" Trudy looked around, hoping to see her daughter again. That's when his smile fell. "No, she's still back in the valley, where I hope she'll remain. In fact, I'm sure she's pretty upset that I left without her." "You don't mean they kicked you out?" inquired Rodney, surprised the members of the valley would toss Chomper out on his own. "Did you eat someone?" "Dear!" Trudy pushed him back, going to Chomper without fear. "Don't listen to him. He's gotten foolish in his older age." "So, are you allowed to visit?" "No. They won't be too happy to see me try to sneak back in." "Anyway, I can always lead you both there. That way you can be with Ruby," Chomper said, lighting up. "Yeah, she won't be lonely if you two are there for her." "Shame you can't join us. Ruby would be even happier if you'd be there." If only. Chomper took the lead, the pair following him. The fast runners shared a curious glance, finding it endearing he cared so much for Ruby's happiness. "So, about Ruby, did you tell her the truth?" Arching a brow, Chomper looked to the older male. "What truth?" "Come on now, it's obvious you care for her," Trudy added, smiling knowingly. "You can't hide it from us." "Well, I guess I do care for her more than I realized till she wasn't there." Chomper paused for a moment, knowing words failed him every time he tried to tell her, tried to share his inner thoughts. Thus, he closed his eyes, taking a cool breath. "Oh, what I'd do to just be able to tell her what it's like when I see her. It's something like happiness, something like hunger, and something like fear. I'd give anything for someone to say all the words I don't have and I can't put together. I'd give anything for someone to say to her that she's all I can think about, and I can't live without her. My father told me compassion and morals weren't meant for the heart of a killer. Courage and strength, the trials of the real world are what matter, and all that should mold you. Oh, what I'd do to have the one thing that you both have that I never will. You have something worth giving, a reason for living. All I do now is kill. I'd give anything for someone to say all the words I don't have and I can't put together. I'd give anything for someone to say to her that she's all I can think about and I can live without her. I'd give anything for someone to say that they can't live without me, they'll be there forever. I'd give anything for someone to say to me that no matter how bad it gets, they won't turn away from me. The pair gave him a sympathetic look, touched by how he felt towards their daughter. Yes, he was a Sharptooth, but under all that, he was still a being, one of them. Someone who longed for love, for acceptance. Sadly, he'd never find it, being born a meat-eater, judged and hated for something he couldn't even help. "We could tell her how you feel," Rodney blurted out. "What? No! It should really come from me." "But you just sang a song about how you wanted someone to say what you couldn't," Trudy said in confusion. "Yeah, and I do wish for that. However, this is no life for someone. Ruby is a nice girl and deserves better. A relationship with a nice fast runner who could give her a family, a home. Things I never could and never will. That's the truth and the darn thing about it." Chomper smiled at the kind gesture. "But I thank you. Also, maybe don't mention you saw me. That might upset her." "Very well. We'll keep it a secret. Your true feelings hidden," Trudy assured, a promise she didn't break when they united with Ruby on the opposite side of the Great Valley Wall. Once the tale of the past was over, Ruby was perplexed they withheld such information, though Chomper told him not to mention his name, for reasons she couldn't understand. It was a lot to take in, wanting to ask more, till someone yelled from outside the cave's entrance, "Ruby!" Rolling her eyes, for it was the voice of Hip, Ruby rose. "Ruby, are you in there?" Hip called, listening for a response. Ruby came out of the darkness, crossing her arms and looking him over. "What do you want, Hip?" "Another chance to try and beat you. Show you that I'm the one." "Why can't some guys take no for an answer?" Ruby uttered with annoyance. "Look, Hip, I think you should spend your time elsewhere. Maybe bettering yourself?" Hip gripped Ruby's arm when she went to leave, meeting her gaze. Her eyes were lovely, standing out against her pink skin, long eyelashes, and equally attractive legs. There was no doubt Hip found her pretty, wanting her and not accepting her many rejections. He ran his free hand to brush her cheek, only for her to slap it away, yanking her arm from his grasp. When her parents came out, he stood back, acting innocent, as though nothing happened. He smiled to the couple, who said nothing and waited, watching them. "Ruby, we should finish dinner," Trudy said, giving Ruby an excuse. "Right. Well, good night, Hip." Ruby walked in, her parents glaring to Hip before vanishing. Hip sighed and left, rubbing his arms, feeling the old marks. What did Ruby see in that Sharptooth boy? He was short, well, before he grew, a real wimp from where Hip stood. Hip met the little biter once, yet held distrust for Chomper, especially after one incident, an event that sealed his pure hatred for Chomper, a fire that couldn't be snuffed out, burning still, for even with Chomper's absence, Ruby wanted nothing to do with him. Curse that little biter. With luck, he was dead, killed once he left the Great Valley. Glancing to his arm, Hip saw the scars. Teeth marks.